Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at Ainz Ooal Gown's greatest summons, the Death Emperor and Death Empress. But before we are doing so, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel and for choosing today's topic. If you want to show us a video topic, get your name mentioned at the start and at the end of this video, and other videos of course, please feel free to subscribe. Furthermore, you can also support me financially by making one-time donations via the thanks card. Now, after this amount of shilling, let's get back to the topic. The Death Emperor and the Death Empress of Ainz Ooal Gown are powerful and extremely obscure summons, but I still managed to get a bit of information and quite a bit speculation about them going. But let's focus for now on what we know first. The Death Emperor and the Death Empress are among the top undead Ainz Ooal Gown can summon, putting both of them on par with the Grim Reaper Thanatos, and they will likely have the same level as him. And like the Grim Reaper, the Death Emperor and the Death Empress require experience points to be summoned. Ainz actually has quite a bit of extra XP saved up, and avarice and generosity a world-class item for saving and distributing experience points, so he doesn't need to sacrifice levels to summon the two of them. And while Thanatos offered a lot to go off by his name alone, we again have pretty much all of the information already explained at this point, but the name and especially some parallels between certain characters and creatures in Dungeons and Dragons and Overlord are giving us some things to speculate about. First and foremost, the Death Emperor and the Death Empress are likely combination monsters, like Vlad and Isabella von Karstein from Warhammer Fantasy, and I believe that the Death Emperor and Death Empress complete another in very similar ways. They're like the third-gen Pikachu of Overlord, if I'm correct about the two. And these assumed symbiotic effects would also require Ainz Ooal Gown to summon both of them to use them effectively at once, which means, since Ainz' reserve experience is limited, he might only be able to summon them once, without risking level loss. And the Empress and Emperor part means that they are likely an exalted type of undead, which is likely an Overlord. And to be more precise, I believe it is the Overlord General, the subtype of Overlord, that controls large armies of undead with ease. And my assumptions of this came from a certain scene in Volume 14, after Pandora's Actor had summoned an elemental skull, which casted extremely powerful magic at Platinum, but it was fragile in melee, and is best utilized as a distance weapon, preferably far above ground. So in essence, this undead skull acts and quite frequently feels like a living beholder, a famous monster from Dungeons and Dragons, but magic potency is usually associated with living beholders rather than dead ones, which are called Death Tyrants. And the Death Tyrants were extremely adept at controlling large hordes of undead creatures without any effort. And if an undead beholder and a living beholder are folded into one and the same archetype in Overlord, namely the elemental skull magic caster, that leaves the Death Tyrant part of the beholder's lore seemingly abandoned, which is why I'm guessing that the Death Empress and the Death Emperor are taking on the mantle of the Death Tyrant as Overlord generals who get many buffs when working together to dominate and direct their massive undead horde. Sort of a cross between a Lich or Demi-Lich and a Death Tyrant of extremely epic proportions, if you will. So if all of this holds true, then we should see the two of them in one of the next volumes of Overlord as generals to direct the enormous amounts of undead Ainz Ooal Gown commands at this point. I mean, the Great Tomb of Nezarec is filled to the brim with sheep pop monsters who pop into existence just like that. And then there are also the many undead Ainz and Pandora's Actor have created for the kingdom, and the invasion of Rhea's Ties also has likely created millions of zombies and squire zombies, and the Cuts plane, outside of Irantel, is still crawling with undead, bringing forth an endless stream of these undead low-level creatures. And all of this awesomeness wants to be controlled and directed as a tidal wave of death and despair. And who better to roll over them than a Death Emperor and a Death Empress, tyrants in their own rights. And last but not least, if we assume that the Overlord Wiseman is represented by Ainz Ooal Gown, and that the Overlord General will be represented by the Death Emperor and her husband, then Rufus, the undead inside of the slain theocracy, might actually be a third type of Overlord, the Overlord Tempomancer, creating all manners of time and dimensional spell types. And I do really hope I'm right with all of this, because I want to see all different types of Overlord in action. But again, this is just my theory, based on the name of Ainz Ooal Gown summons, that has some parallels with D&D, and the odd Overlord information here and there. And with that said, please be sure to leave a comment telling me your own opinion, and thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all of my generous donors who donated via the thanks function, and special thanks to Dash Dash Dash, Bedgar Yee, Ben C, Chrissy, Crawley, 0221, Sia, Death is Mercy, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Feral Shivan, Guy with Dead Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Mr. Shoes, Michael R, Michael Rye, O'Kill, Paddy Pantum, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.